welcome along today. Now I have had an email through from a lady who's having some problems working out what rad valves are doing which one is the hot one going in, why is my bathroom rad the only one that's got a thermostatic radiator valve on it, which one actually regulates the hot and cold temperature, and which side is the hot, which is the cold. She's in utter confusion, and I don't blame her, because if you weren't a plumber, I don't blame you. So let's take it a little bit step by step, shall we? So, one of the first major questions was, which valve is which? This is on one end of the radiator, this one is on the other end. Okay, which one regulates the temperature, which one lets the water in, which one lets it out? Now, first of all, let me explain something to you. These valves are both exactly the same. The only thing that's different is the top. If I was to pull this top off, you'll see that. If I pull this top off, exactly the same. So, what we're saying here is that both these valves are identical, although they may look different to you on your radiator. Some of them will have a screw in the top. Don't worry about that, you just unscrew that screw and you can pull this top away. It's the same valve underneath if you have these type of valves. Now she is saying which one regulates the temperature. Well, neither of them regulate the temperature. All they actually do is stop the flow of water going through your radiator. And she says to me, which one will stop the flow of water? Well, actually it can be either one, because if the water's coming in this one, the flow, and coming out of this one, you could turn that one off. It will still stop it going into the radiator. It doesn't matter which one you turn off. It will only stop the flow into the radiator. It will not alter the temperature of the radiator. People do cut them down, and that's for a different thing altogether called system balancing. We're not going into that today. We're just explaining about radiator valves. So moving on, we move into thermostatic radiator valves. So how do they work? Well, I must admit, I always used to think they controlled the temperature coming in, but in actual fact that is wrong. They don't actually control the temperature of the water coming in. It is just another on-off valve. It's just another valve that shuts the flow of water into the rad or out of the rad if it's coming round the other way. Once upon a time, these type of thermostatic valves were only fitted on the flow, the hot pipe coming in, because they would only work in that direction, but nowadays they can go on either and they work in either direction. These work by sensing the air temperature around it, and whatever you set this at, usually most times it's on number 3, it's the average temperature. Depending on the air temperature, it will either be off or it will be on, and when that temperature is reached, the valve will shut down. What I'm going to do is give you a kind of a demonstration now. I'm going to undo this valve, pull it forward, take it out, blank this off, probably with another valve on it, just pull it forward, and just show you what happens when you turn this valve on 0 and gradually bring it up to the temperature. When it gets to the temperature, this valve should open and water should come out the other end. This symbol here, people get mystified about, is a frost stat. It does mean that you could leave your house and the heating on if all your stats were set to frost, and you know that if the temperature got down to about 5 degrees, the radiators would come on and protect your house from being frozen. That is generally the idea, that when you see that symbol there, that is the frost stat. Turning this valve even more just means now that the valve is going to shut right down at 0. So what I'm going to do now, give you a little demonstration of what I mean. Okay then, for our little experiment, as you can see, I've undone a radiator, turned it round, blanked off the other end, a little blank, and I've also shut off the valve the other end of the radiator. Now, what I'm going to do is turn this valve from 0 to 1. Now I know the numbers are facing wrong because we're now round the wrong way because I've turned the radiator this way. Okay, so really it's on 0. Okay, and we're going to gradually turn it and see what temperature that comes on at. So we've got to kind of work it backwards, as it were, because 0 is actually at the back of the rad now. Okay, so you'll see when this finally opens, and it'll only open when it senses the room temperature. And there it is there. Okay, you can see there what happens when it senses the air pressure, the air temperature. It's on. There it is, coming out. So there you have it. Whether the water's coming up this way and flowing into the radiator, or if it's coming down the other way, whatever happens, it doesn't matter which way it's flowing, because this valve is opening and shutting just like our mechanical ones. Just the same, it's opening, it's either letting the hot water up and into the radiator or around the other way as it requires it. So if the air temperature is dropped, then the valve will open and let the hot water into the radiator, or it will let the hot water back round and down and return. Either way, the rad won't get hot until that valve opens. They don't sense temperature and regulate it, as a lot of people thought, and even I did for quite a while. In fact, I did say on my earlier video it did that, and I thought, that's totally wrong, get it right, Al. All it does is shut the water flow off either way. We all make mistakes, it's alright, we can all do it. Okay, so back to the matter in hand, the rad valves. I'll put this lot back now. So, moving on a step further and a little bit more up to date again, we have these type of thermostatic rad valves as well. These are app driven, as you use your phone, computer, whatever, and you can access this type of valve and have your radiator shut down its flow whenever you like by a phone. You can operate the temperature, you can do settings of times on and off, and all types of things with one of these modern app driven tops. Now all it is a top. You can see it just replaces the top of your thermostatic rad valve. So instead of having the temperature sensor on there, you replace it with this whole thing. You link this to your internet, put it on your modem, get it connected up, and you'll have access anywhere in the world for these to work. These at the moment, you can only get about 5 of these to work on the system at the moment. They probably will get round it in the end and you'll be able to have everything on. The idea then is every rad in your house is on one of these. You could control every single room, leave the heating on all the time, and it would be totally controlled by these if you want to go that far. But that's today's technology on heating as far as the humble radiator valve goes. I was also asked, why have I got just one thermostatic radiator valve in my bathroom and all the others are ordinary twist valves? Well, I think it's probably just to give you a little bit more control over the temperature in the bathroom. It's one of those rooms, you might like it a bit hot, you might like it a bit cool, sometimes it gets a bit steamy and warm in there. Nice maybe not to have the rad coming on when it gets really warm. At least with a thermostatic valve, if you're having a shower or whatever, it gets hot and steamy, the radiator will go off because it will reach temperature. Whereas if you've got one of those ordinary valves, you're stuck with just on or off basically. And don't get me wrong, those valves are okay. If you cut them down to nearly off, it will cool the rad down because the other rads will drag the heat away from there because minimal is going in. So they will cool down, but not behave in the way that it would with a thermostatic radiator valve, which kind of just shuts it straight off, right, as I've showed you on that video with the radiator, the thermostatic valve. So that's that one. And another question asked was why in some houses there's thermostatic rad valves on all the radiators except for the bathroom, and it possibly might be a towel rail where you do have then two of these, one either end of the radiator or the towel rail, and you can't even turn them because they're these cap types. You need pliers to turn them off, so they're deliberately left like that, and that's because that has been put on as a bypass loop, and that sounds a little bit complicated, but basically it means that if all the thermostatic rad valves in the house shut down, you will still have one radiator or one tail rail for the water to pass through, which will prevent the pump from burning out. Now a lot of boilers these days, combis and that etc. now have what's called a bypass valve fitted, so you don't need that anymore. In case you'd like to know what one looks like, this is a picture of a bypass valve I have here. So it's kind of an old system idea, but the bypass valve, as they call it, can be fitted retro to old systems, and they still do have it, in which case then you can have thermostatic valves everywhere. But that's just an old idea, but it's still in plenty of houses around. They have this kind of bypass radiator. Another question she asked me about is why have I got double radiators in some rooms, single radiators in others, etc. Why is that? And quite simply it's because the bigger the radiator is, the more heat output it gives into the room. So the larger the room is, the bigger the radiator normally, just to give you enough heat output to fill that room. If you just had a small rad in a room, it would barely warm it at all. It's just a matter of, there is a little device we use to measure out the size of a rad for a room, whether it be a double, which gives you twice virtually the heat output than a single radiator would do. So we work out what size you need per room with a device that we use. I won't go into that, it's a bit technical as well, but basically all it is about is getting the right size rad to get the right amount of heat for the particular room that it is going into.
So if you're limited on size, you can only put up a smaller radiator. You could make it a double to get twice the heat.
Twice the heat. Or you could make it a taller radiator if it was a small room, so that you increased the heat output. All radiators have a heat rating using BTU, which they use to give you the maximum amount of heat that that radiator will give you in the room. Okay. So what we've got to do is work out what size you need and the heat output. And that means you get all these different size radiators all over your house. Good, isn't it? Right, well, I hope that clears up a little bit of mystery about radiators and valves and flow and returns and etc, and which way to turn them. And don't forget everybody that every radiator valve only turns clockwise to turn it off, anti-clockwise to turn it on. Strict rules, okay, they don't go the other way. Have you got that? Yeah? Okay. Time we made a cup of tea. See you later guys. Don't forget my channel, Derek33. Bye bye.